Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. We're talking about the hospitality industry today. We have Mark Woodworth, Andrew Pace, and David Marvin with us. They're all hotel and hospitality experts. And guys, I got to ask you about technology and social media. How is that impacting the industry today, or is it?
Well, I'll take that on. I think that technology married the industry in due course 10 years ago, and other than where the customer meets the hotel, in purchasing a hotel room and now perhaps checking in, I think maybe technology in hotels has peaked to some extent. From a consumer's perspective, what they want is bandwidth, and then the consumer is bringing their own technology. So there were thoughts that you were going to be able to do all things from your hotel touch tone phone. That's no longer looks like the trend of the future. As far as social media goes, it's a great way for hotels to connect with their customers. I think that it makes the hotels that perform well in terms of delivering great customer experience shine. That can be a little scary, and it's certainly an imperfect medium because sometimes people give inaccurate or unfair reviews, but I think actively managed, I think it's a real friend of the hotel industry.
Yeah,
I think the statistic I heard, David, was that 80% of the people that are online are looking at TripAdvisor, for example, to see existing guest experience, and then of course they're ranking hotels in certain markets. So I think how it's changed our business is hotels are much more accountable as far as their level of service and delivery for the customers, and it's good for everybody. The customer wins. The hotels know they're accountable as compared to many years in the past, and I think it's brought up the whole pool of hotel quality for the benefit of the guests.
Yeah, I think, Michael, if I could maybe come in on a little different path on that one. Because of technology, we've seen businesses such as Airbnb be created and really be a factor in the lodging industry. So I find it particularly interesting, and as I said earlier, we're in record times now in our industry, but yet we've achieved that level of performance in spite of the fact that we now have a very legitimate, sizable alternative out there to traditional hotels in the form of Airbnb. So technology is clearly affecting the industry, but again, ultimately, I think a lot of us tend to think about the real benefit to technology is probably going to be if I can substitute technology for labor. And that is a very, very difficult thing to do in our industry.
And most of our listeners are going to know what Airbnb, but briefly, what is that?
It's an online service where it's part of the share economy. If you have an extra bedroom or an unused apartment or condo, single-family home, I think there's even 300 lighthouses listed on Airbnb now that you can rent if you want one. And consumers, particularly this millennial generation we haven't talked too much about today, are finding those very attractive alternatives that in terms of what you have to pay to what you get, and therefore it's typically a very high value. And because of the technology, it's a very interesting phenomena in that you can learn an awful lot about both the host, that person who's renting their unit to you, but then the host at the same time can learn an awful lot about you as the consumer, because as a renter of Airbnb units, you build up a history, and so therefore they know, are you a good renter, or are you more like a David and Andrew where never again will I do that? So just kidding.
So it's sort of like Uber, right? I think they do the same.
It's all part of the
thing.
share economy.
Right.
Exactly right.
Right. So you call an Uber, then you're not there to grab it, and they're like, okay, we're not going to respond to Michael Bull again, right?
That's right.
Right.
Same thing. Yeah.
And you talked about that's, I guess, one of the possible headwinds is those kind of alternatives. What are some other headwinds? How about minimum income wage increases, and how about Obamacare? Is any of that impacting the hotel industry or the restaurant industry?
I think the predictions were maybe a little overstated. We have, in our businesses, both in the hotel and the restaurant side, yet to see a major impact. One of the issues Of course, minimum wages have not in our locations increased. And a lot of our employees, particularly in the hotel side, are already well above minimum wage. But on the healthcare and Obamacare, we're finding that the subscription rates are quite low. And so the impact to the company has not been terribly significant. And obviously everything is in flux now, waiting to find out whether or not it'll survive. But we have not seen a big impact. I will say that labor as a general factor continues to be the most challenging component of our business, and whether or not you're able to hire, train, retain, motivate great people is the key factor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big point. I think, when I go to a hotel or a restaurant, how I'm treated is a big thing. I remember I used to have a dry cleaner that did a terrible job. Your clothes were terrible, but they were so nice and so good to you. You're like, you just wanted to go back. It's a big part of the experience. Well, stay tuned. We'll have more on the hospitality industry. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty Commercial Advisors, a great place to do business. Visit bullrealty.com. RealNex, a comprehensive and powerful suite of commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low price. Visit realnex.com. That's RealNex. FIU, Florida International University. Earn your master's in real estate in as little as 10 months without interrupting your career. Visit FIUonline.com. Xceligent, the resource professionals use for commercial real estate information. Visit Xceligent.com. That's Xceligent. Commercial Search, the source to market and source available properties for sale or lease. Visit commercialsearch.com. For more information on these great companies or for additional videos, podcasts, or articles, visit CREshow.com.